Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show you how to work with the character panel in Adobe Illustrator. So just like in Photoshop, or I'm sorry, let me start over. I'm going to show you how to use the character panel in Adobe Photoshop. Just like in Adobe Illustrator, we have a character panel where we can modify and edit our text. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new document. So I'm going to go to File, New, and I'm going to go to recent. I'm just going to create my document. So I'm going to name it my first initial, last name, underscore, text, practice, and I'm going to size it 13 by 66 by 768. I'm going to uncheck this artboard button. Mine is checked. Yours probably will not be. So just make sure that's unchecked. So 1366 pixels by 768 pixels. So that is also equivalent to an 18.9 by 10 inch document. Okay, that's pretty big, but this is actually the size if we were creating a mock-up for a browser, a web browser, or a website. This is the most common size that we could use. All right, everything else is going to stay defaulted. 72 pixels per inch is fine, and then RGB color. Then I'm going to go ahead and hit create. All right, so I always want to have my layer panel open. That is opened. The next thing I'm going to open is my character panel. So I'm going to go up here to window and go to character. All right, so what that did, it stacked my panels together, which is totally fine. I'm okay with that. I'm just going to kind of drag this down a little bit. If you want, you can separate these so they're side by side. So you just click on one and drag it off to the side. You can move these around as you need to. Oops. Move them around as you need to give yourself maybe some more space. Or you can stack them. That's completely up to you as the designer and how you are working. Okay, I like to keep them like that so I can see what's going on in my layer panel at the same time I'm modifying my text. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is type out some text. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my type tool, which is located right here. You want to use your horizontal type tool. That's the most common feature that we're going to type option we're going to use. And I am going to type out, here we go. All right, so I can't see it because my text is white. We went over this in the last video. So I'm going to select my text and change it to a different color. I'm going to go ahead and make it black, and I do not like that font, so I'm going to go ahead and change it to something pretty basic. So I'm going to do Adobe Garment Pro. You may not have this font on your computer. That's okay. Choose something that is simple, something that's not too crazy for this example, okay? You don't have to do your projects exactly like mine. So up here, this is the basic option panel for Adobe Photoshop for your characters or your type, okay? So we can change our text here, just like we did in Illustrator. We can change the font weight if this one had like regular, italic, bold, semi-bold, thin. If that font had those options, it would be located here. You can change the size. Again, the default size goes up to 72, but you can increase this as much as you want. Sharp, crisp, strong, smooth. We'll talk about those in a bit and how they change the look of your font. Your justification is here, center, left, right. You change the color here, so your text does need to be highlighted when you change the color of your text. So if I wanted to make this orange, I could make it orange. You've got a warp feature here, just like we did in Illustrator. Okay, if you wanted to warp your text, you could do that. This will open the character panel, which we just opened in the window menu. Okay, so it's already opened. I don't need to click on that. This will cancel your last change. And then let's see, let me go back. So change this back to orange. And then this will commit to your change. And then this will turn your text into 3D. We're not going to do that just yet. Okay, so let me go ahead and increase the size of this just a little bit. Move it back over. Okay, so let's go. All right, so with our text tool, there's two ways we can change the font size. The first way would be obviously to use the font size type in a number or use the drop down arrow. Another way we could do it is using the move tool with our transform controls selected. We could go ahead and stretch this out, okay? So we don't have to hold shift in Photoshop to constrain the size, which is fantastic. If we wanted to distort it, that's when we would hold shift. Okay, so that looks a little stretched out. Obviously, I wouldn't want to do that too much, but that is another way to resize your text in Photoshop. Okay, looking at our layer panel, if we come over here to our layer panel with our text layer selected, if we double click here in this blank area, you're going to get this box that comes up. This is the layer style box. We are going to talk about that, just not right this minute. So if that does pop up, just go ahead and hit cancel. Okay. If you double click on the actual text, this is where you can change the name of the layer. Okay. Or if you want to select your text other than, coming over here and highlighting it that way, you can double click on the letter T and it will highlight your text for you. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you. So I'm going to go type this. I'm going to change text here. Okay, so I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to type this out, change text here. Okay, and then I'm going to select it, double clicking there, and I'm going to change the font style that I'm using to something different just for an example so you can kind of see how to modify your text. So I'm going to change it back to, change, okay, and then maybe make it, let's go stick with black for right now. Okay, so if I wanted to change parts of my font, I could. So we do have our character panel here. We are going to get to that, but for right now, what if I wanted to change this to, let's see, change these two to a different font weight. So let's go with regular, and then change this one to not thin italic, but just regular, regular thin. So I'm going to go to, where is it? I know I have regular thin. That's not italic. I might have to come back in here and type in railway. Railway thin, extra light. Oh, there we go. Okay, I think it was in there. All right, so now they're two different font weights. If I wanted to change the color on one piece of my font, I would just select that text, click in here, and then come in here, and I can go ahead and just click here. And then if I wanted to change this to a different color, I could come in here and do that. All right, so now if I wanted to put change on a different line, I put my cursor in between these these words, I'm just going to hit enter on the keyboard and it'll bring my text below. So just like a regular Word document. Okay, not a whole lot different. Okay, this is where I'm going to use my character panel. So I'm going to bring these two lines of text closer together. Depending on the text that you used, your text may be closer together or further apart. So I'm going to make them a nice distance. I don't want them to be too far but too close together. All right, so just like in Illustrator, you've got some options here. This first option right here is your line spacing. So a good place to start is default or 72 points. That's going to give you a good place to start is matching the font size with the line spacing. Another thing I could do is just go and manually, let's see if I can use the arrow key. Sometimes you can use the arrow key. Yeah, you can use the arrow key up and down if you wanted it closer together or further apart. Okay, so it's helpful. You want your viewers to be able to read what's going on. So if they're too close, it's hard to read. If they're too far apart, it kind of separates the whole message. So that looks like a good place to leave it. Okay, so if I wanted to change the spacing between letter characters and make this word change a little bit separate or a little bit wider, what I could do is come here to, and if you hover, just like in Illustrator, it should show you the tools that you are clicking on and the name of it. This should be kerning. Let's see. Okay. It's not showing the name. So you can use your arrow keys to increase the size. You could also use the drop down arrow. So the negative is it brings it closer together and the positive numbers bring them further apart. So if you wanted to separate a word to kind of give it a little bit of distance, you could use that one. Okay. All right, so I want you to take note that if you have all of your text on one layer, sometimes it can be hard to make certain changes or specific changes that you want to make. You can only make so many changes when all of your text is on one line or one layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to select this text and I'm going to cut it. So I'm going to go Control X to cut, or you can go right click and hit cut, or you can go to Edit, Cut. Okay, and then I'm going to create a new layer. So over here, I'm going to click on a new layer, and then I'm going to put second line. And then here, I'm going to bring my text box, and I'm going to type out second line. Okay, so now I have two separate layers with independent text on them. Okay, so this is great because now I can come in here and they move independently of each other. I can modify them independently of each other. I can resize them independently, and it makes my life a little bit easier. So I'm going to go ahead and, like, this could be your website. So let's say www.website.com. And now I can come back in here. I can maybe change this to bold and bring them a little closer together again, okay? And then they move independently of each other. So this could be a headline, and then this could be your website. All right, and then I can go in here and change its color independently. I don't have to worry about selecting certain pieces of the text. Hit OK, and then I can kind of bring these back together, put this in the center, maybe put this right here. All right, so let's see. We're going to go over some more text in just a minute. All right, so I'm going to do one more layer. So let's see, for right now, I'm going to just type out something. Oops. Goes here. And you can see that I've got a layer here. I'm going to change this color so we know that it's on a different layer, just for that purpose. Okay. All right, so now I can kind of move these around. So I want to show you how to align your objects on your artboard. So I'm going to go to my Move tool, and I'm going to drag this up. So I am moving my text around. Remember we talked about if you want to move your font or your text, or you want to move layers, I should say, you would have to click on the actual layer in the layer panel, okay, to move things around. Another way you could do it is if you click Auto Select up here. Whenever you click on a piece of the layer, it will select it. This is kind of easy, makes it kind of simpler to select parts of your font or your layers, but it can get difficult when you have a lot of layers on your artboard. So use it carefully. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and keep it selected. All right, so I'm just going to move everything around like this really quick. I'm going to maybe make this a little bit bigger, and I'm just going to kind of place everything all over the artboard, and then we're going to use the alignment tools to align everything center. So the next thing I'm going to do is select all of my lines of text. So I'm going to click on the first layer here, and I'm going to hold down Shift and click on the bottom layer. Okay, so now they're all selected, and up here I've got my alignment controls. All right, so I want to align this to my artboard. So what I'm going to do is click on these three dots, click where it says Align to Selection or Canvas. I'm going to choose Canvas. That means it'll align to the center of my artboard. And if I click on the Align Horizontal Centers, it will align everything center, okay, in my artboard. Now if I click on horizontal or vertical, it's going to put everything on top of each other. So obviously I don't want to do that. I do want to do the horizontal. Now this one is going to separate everything with the perfect space, distribute vertically. Okay, so I'm going to click on that and let's see what happens. So now there's the same amount of spacing in between each line of my layer. All right, so I want you to go ahead and I want you to give me 3 lines of text for this assignment. So you can type whatever you want, it needs to be appropriate. You can write your name, you can write a message, you can write a quote, maybe go back to the last assignment and get a quote and maybe put the quote on one line, put who said it on another, and then maybe your name at the bottom. Okay, but I want you to do the same thing I did here. So give me 3 different lines of text, modify them a little bit, change the colors so they're all different colors, and align them. You can either do left align, right align, or center. It's up to you. I don't care. But I want to see that you have used the character panel. Okay, so mess around with these settings. You can even try these other options here. So vertically scale, see what they do. Okay, the only way you're going to learn these tools is if you push the buttons and see what happens. Okay, so give me 3 lines of text, maybe a quote, the person that said it, and then down at the bottom your name. Okay, your artboard should be the same size that we made this one, which I think was like 1366 by 768. You'll have to watch the beginning of the video again. Modify each line of text, change it up a little bit, and then you're going to go ahead and save your file. So let's go on my computer and put it in my Photoshop or my Photoshop folder, create a new folder and name it Text Practice. And save your Photoshop document. And you're also going to export your JPEG file. Okay, so make sure to click JPEG and export. Make sure it's going in your Text Practice folder and hit save. All right, and then you can go ahead and close this out. It's going to ask me if I want to save it again. I'm going to hit no because I've already saved it. Then you're going to turn both of those files into Google Classroom.